All right, folks, welcome back to yet another episode of Fresh Juice, an indie game podcast. I am one of your hosts, Tommy Fresh, and joined as always, it is
Matty Juice. What is up? Welcome to the Fresh Juice podcast, Tom. I'm excited about today's episode, and I don't know about you, but I'm feeling 22 because it's episode 22 of the show.
It sure is, man. I thought that was a something to do with the game, and then I realized that no, it's our episode number. It is episode 22, folks. We did it. The haters said we never would, but here we are, and we did it. Episode 22. It's gonna be a banger. I'm excited about this one. I am stoked, and we are going to be reviewing a game called Balatro. We even called it Balatro, like river trash over here. You want to review Balatro this week? But it's a poker roguelite, so pretty interesting. Excited to talk about it. We do have some news and stuff like that too, and then we'll get to some listener questions. But first, what's going on, buddy? What's new?
Yeah, let's see. Nothing much. I didn't really have a ton of plans over the weekend, which was nice. Change of pace. So played some Helldivers, which was great. I did go to dinner at my in-laws, which was good. Had some prime rib over there. And I've been playing the game that we've been talking about. I've been playing a good amount of it, or the game that we're going to talk about today. But yeah, just been chilling lately. I tried a new hot chicken place today. It's like 15 minutes from where I live. It was solid. I got like a Nashville hot sandwich. It was fine. It's no Namkeen for people listening to the show. You know, we've talked about this place Namkeen before. It's great, like a Pakistani fusion with Nashville hot. It's freaking awesome. It's delicious, and nothing can top it. But this was good, and it's closer. So I'll probably end up going there, again at some point. But it's called Broadway Hot and Honey Chicken or something like that. It's solid. I recommend checking it out if you're ever in the area.
Oh, maybe I will. I believe our buddy Bags sent us something about that.
So he did, and I was like, I gotta try this place for lunch on Monday, and I did.
No, it did. The videos looked good, so I'm always down for some hot chicken. But yes, Namkeen is really the king, at least in this region of the world. But no, it sounds like a nice, relaxing weekend. I played more Flesh and Blood this weekend. I had another Road to Nats. Even though I already qualified, I still wanted to play a little bit. I had already paid for the tournament, so just why not? And then on Sunday, just kind of relaxed a little bit, went to the gym. We have this stump, right? We have this big old stump in the yard, like from a tree that fell down a while ago. Mm-hmm. And it is like kind of rotten, but not rotten enough that it's easy to get out. And I was like, you know what? Let's clean around it and then like start digging a bit. And man, it is a pain in the ass. It is terrible. And I was like cutting up roots that were like this big, and just it's going to be a couple week process, but it's nice to get outside. It was nice out on Sunday, but other than that, I've been playing a lot of the game that we're reviewing this week. I also downloaded Helldivers 2, and I went on my first mission. I didn't have a lot of time to like game at my computer this week, but I played Helldivers 2. I did the tutorial, I did a mission, and I was like, okay, I get it. This is pretty awesome. And I love Starship Troopers too, so like I kind of love that vibe and the kind of tongue-in-cheek parody kind of fascism it is. So that was a lot of fun. So I understand. My computer sounded really loud when I was playing, so I was a little bit worried, but maybe that's just, I don't play a lot of heavy-duty games, so maybe that's just how it is when I play heavy duty games. Well, I'll ask you about it, and you'll tell me if it's okay. But
hey, for democracy, I'm willing to say that you're going to fry your computer for democracy. It's totally fine.
Why not? Why not? I mean, it's worth it. It's worth it, and that's why we were chosen for the cause. But
yep.
We do have a great show for you. I do want to talk about some news, and the biggest news in the world is we do have a Discord, and you can find that in the show notes. Great place to pop in, talk about the games that we're playing, maybe recommend games. This game was recommended to us by Capolo, and he will never let us live that down, of course. But and you could be the next Capolo if you want in the Discord. Check it out. Please go in
Yeah.
there, and it's a great way to support the show for free, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And but you did throw something in here about the Apple Vision Pro. I've been seeing a lot of this on the internet.
Yeah.
A lot of it's memey. A lot of it's like, what's going on here? Can you tell us what's going on?
Yeah, so when it comes to the Apple Vision Pro as a whole, like I think it's, something that is not for everybody. Like it's not something I would buy. It's just too expensive. But I did find an interesting article talking about some of the most exciting indie games that you can play on the Apple Vision Pro, which does intrigue me because obviously it's kind of a new medium for games, right? So this article that I'll have linked in the show description from TechCrunch kind of goes over a few of the different games. There's like spatial puzzle games that you can play on the Vision Pro. Let's see, like what else? There's kind of like these multiplayer games that you can play with people on like FaceTime calls, which is kind of cool. But probably the most interesting thing to me, there's like little kind of stuff like drawing and all that sort of stuff. You can draw on like a canvas that's kind of floating in your room, things like that. But someone did say that there was a developer that was working on a hidden object game called Where is Ploppy? And that got me thinking, how cool would it be to have like a hide and seek kind of game while you're wearing this and you have to like look around your house, I guess like, under stuff in like through doors, I guess. I don't really know how like all the tech works for it, but it just seemed really cool. And obviously that we're at this stage, right, of like, when like iPhones and iPod touches first came out, everybody had like that beer drinking app or like apps where it's just like a fart button, kind of these like stupid little things. And I think that's kind of where we are with the Apple Vision Pro. And this is just kind of like the beginning. But I'm really interested to see kind of what games end up coming out for this like entirely really like new medium. I feel like MetaQuest, which is like the competitor for the Apple Vision Pro, you can play like current games on like the MetaQuest, right? Like Resident Evil, things like that. I don't know if there's like games that have been designed just for the MetaQuest, but when Apple does something, people make games just for Apple things.
Mm-hmm.
So I just thought there was a really like I just never really thought about it with the Vision Pro. I was kind of thinking like, it's just going to be like for productivity or like for people like just entertainment. But games, that's a whole nother kind of leg of the Apple Vision Pro that I didn't even consider. So it's pretty cool. Definitely check out the article if you guys haven't already. They show some cool pictures and kind of how some of these games work, even a video in there. Yeah, it's just interesting to me.
Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about it. I've done some virtual reality stuff, mostly the Oculus, right? Like, that is like for games, right? That's, Beat Saber and it's what the heck is the one the Acrons that our cousin Dan's into where
Yeah.
everybody's playing on their phone and one person's on the Oculus. It'd be interesting to see if there's going to be games that like kind of connect better with the Apple Vision Pro because of the iPhone kind of probably compatibility there. So I would be interested to see, what Flappy Birds on Apple Vision Pro, where
Yeah.
you got a flap. I don't know.
Yeah, no, yeah. That I mean, it has like so much potential, and I think like the big thing too is like we've seen a lot of virtual reality stuff, but obviously like the Apple Vision Pro is like augmented reality, so it's like you're seeing the world. We've seen videos of people walking around the city and stuff. Like imagine this because I know we can kind of relate to this. Imagine like a manhunt
Oh yeah.
like mode, like you go around like your town or something. Everybody's got like goggles on, and like I guess there could be obstacles in the way, puzzles you need to solve before you can like I don't know, find a clue or something like that. It could be pretty cool.
I mean, that sounds cool. Yeah, I forgot that it's actually augmented reality because, like, I have seen people just like in restaurants with it on, which like
Yeah.
is a little crazy. But that reminds me of, Minecraft had tried to get into the Pokemon Go phase, and they had a game called Minecraft Earth on the phone. And to be honest, I thought that was so good. It didn't have a large player base, and I believe that they discontinued to work on Minecraft Dungeons, or maybe it was even Minecraft Legends or something like that. But the AR in that was so cool, and to do that on the Vision Pro would be like awesome. Like, Minecraft is just like perfect for that. So, uh,
Yeah, and I that Minecraft one you could like dig in the ground, right? Like
mm-hmm.
I mean obviously you weren't really doing it, but that was like the coolest thing to me about Minecraft Earth was like you could like terraform the ground with like Minecraft blocks. So yeah, it's wow. I totally forgot about Minecraft Earth too. There's been so many like Pokemon Go clones, right?
Yeah.
That it's shocking to me that Minecraft did not like succeed and is not still around.
Yeah, I was pretty bummed about that one. That one was pretty cool. I would just hop on and because like that one, it didn't feel like you had to grind, right? Like you kind of just hop on and like, oh, I'll do like a little dungeon or I'll build something or something like that. And I feel like the I guess like the controls or how you would do it with a Vision Pro would be arguably easier. So, um,
Yeah.
bring it back, bring it back. Now we do have some bittersweet news, right? This kind of dropped in earlier in the month, but we kind of missed it, or didn't talk about it. But Dead Cells, a game that we've talked about a lot, and it's had a lot of updates, a lot of different content added to it over the years. For 7 years, I think, since it was in early access, is calling the quits. They're doing one more big update, and then they're going to start to move on to other projects, and that's Motion Twin, a French developer. And man, Dead Cells was just so good, and I mean, it still is so good. And it's kind of it's a shame to see it go, but that this is also pretty exciting that they're going to start working on something else, right? Because I think they've explored everything with Dead Cells, and I didn't keep up with all of it. It would be cool to kind of do like or buy like a whole package deal with Dead Cells and be able to get all the
Yeah.
updates, kind of revisit it. But it was one of the best roguelites, and yeah, I mean, what do you think about Dead Cells calling the quits? I know we both got into it at the same time, or you even got into it a little bit earlier because you saw it at what TwitchCon?
Yeah, yeah, TwitchCon. Yeah, it was. This is obviously, when a company or a game is able to make a like press release saying like, "Hey, we're not going to do updates anymore for the game." That's usually an indication, right, that like the game was incredibly successful, and like you don't always get that luxury, right, of like being able to announce kind of like the end of the game in a really positive way, right? Like they're saying here, like we had 4 DLCs, 18 updates, like epic crossovers, and they did a mobile release. Like they did so much for Dead Cells, and it's obviously it sucks to see no more updates. And I know Motion Twin is like working on another game called Windblown. That's like a high speed roguelike battler is what they're calling it based on this article. But I also feel like this opens up the door for a Dead Cells 2 eventually. That could, well, I mean, we saw Hades 2, and that was a surprise to me.
Yeah,
So just like in that kind of roguelike world, I would love to get a Dead Cells 2, see what kind of unique spin they can put on it. But it is, it's sad to see, and I just can't help but think of like No Man's Sky, just because I'm a big No Man's Sky fan. They've also put out like an insane amount of free updates, and eventually they're going to have something similar, right? Where they're going to say, "Hey, we're like calling it quits. We're going to work on something else." They already have another game that they're actually working on, but yeah, I mean, Dead Cells, it's and I know it's something we want to talk about. Is it on the Mount Rushmore of roguelites? What do
yeah,
you think?
that is the question. And I mean, to me, right? I think that Dead Cells kind of was released at the beginning of the wave. I think we had some other roguelites here and there, but Dead Cells really was like one of the most like well thought out and like well explored, where it combined two different genres. Like it showed that roguelike could just be something you apply to something, right? Like this was the Metroidvania. They applied it to that. And then it kind of took the world by storm and it was indie and, had all these different updates and had a really cool main character. And it's honestly at a point like the main character, I would not be surprised if he shows up in like Smash, right?
Yeah.
Right? Like
Yeah.
that, they're hinting at a bunch of stuff in this like final update, like, oh, maybe something else, maybe this. Like they're like, this is a huge property, and now that they're not working on it, they can use that IP elsewhere, which is really cool. I think there was mention of board game and stuff like that. I mean, I think he even showed up in a different game, another brawler. Well, not it wasn't Melee, but it was like a different brawler.
Yeah.
But
Whatever that was called. I don't think it was Multiverses because that's like DC and everything. But it was something. Maybe it was Brawl Stars. Was it Brawl
maybe
or
Brawl Stars or Brawlhalla
yeah,
or something like that.
Brawlhalla.
But
Yeah, Brawlhalla. Yeah.
but this, to me, Dead Cells does make it onto the Mount Rushmore of roguelites. I mean, or likes, whatever. It's just it did it so well, and it showed that it can be mixed with other genres. The other one for me on there, probably. I mean, I guess you call Binding of Isaac a roguelike.
Yeah.
I never actually played it, but I did play Enter the Gungeon, and I gotta say, I know that there's Enter the Gungeon kind of not took a lot from Binding of Isaac, but had a similar feel. I know that Binding has to be on it. It's a little bit iconic as the character recognition, and then after that, it's really tough for me. I mean, I'm personally I love Loop Hero. That one is really good. I don't know if you can actually put it on the Mount Rushmore of roguelikes because it's just not like widely loved
Yeah.
like it should be. I think it should be. I would say Slay the Spire is definitely on there, and Slay the Spire, and Slay the Spire opened up the roguelite card battler, card games, and it's a lot like the game we're playing. Not a lot like the game we're playing, but if there's no Slay the Spire, I don't think there's any Balatro, right? And Balatro's, we'll talk about whether that's a worthy kind of attempt at it, but I don't know what I would put in the fourth spot. But what do you have in your Mount Rushmore?
Yeah, no, I think those are great choices, and just one thing also about Dead Cells that like I think obviously the game itself is like deserves all the props, everything, all the popularity, but I really feel like it took another life with all that plagiarism stuff that happened when it kind of first came out. I don't know if you remember, like someone had made a review on like GameSpot,
Oh
I
yeah,
think, and it was plagiarized from some smaller YouTube channel, and that like blew up. People started like digging into like everyone's reviews on every major gaming site, seeing if it was plagiarized, and Dead Cells just took like a life of its own from there. It was already a great game. It was already doing so much right, and that just like was a meteoric rise for Dead Cells right there. And I
forgot
just
about
think
that.
like that doesn't happen all the time. So it was literally like the perfect storm for them where they had a fantastic game and they had all the press behind it. Because I'm looking at like a list right here of like a bunch of roguelike indie games, and there's a good amount on here that like you said, like with Loop Hero, like it just didn't get like all the love, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that could be due to like the marketing, right? Like Dead Cells was fortunate, but like they were able to get all that press, and that kind of also brought them to the top. I'm even looking on here like Moonlighter. I had a lot of fun playing Moonlighter.
It's another
No
great
one
one.
really talks about Moonlighter. It was a cool concept. And I'm also like I see like Scourge Bringer. I remember I played a bit of that game. That was a cool one too. Like there's a lot of stuff on here that just like kind of gets swept under the rug. But for me, for my Mount Rushmore, excuse me, I would have to put Dead Cells on there, obviously. I think Binding of Isaac has to go on there. I haven't played a lot of it, but it's just like I've watched a good amount of it. Our buddy Bags had played it like almost every day, I think, when it was like out. And so I've watched him play a lot of it. I also think it's more of a newcomer, but like Vampire Survivors
That's
should
true.
maybe be on there. It's influencing so many games now. Like I just think it deserves to be at least mentioned in the conversation. I never played a lot of Slay the Spire or Enter the Gungeon, but I know like it has such a strong fan base, so
Hmm.
maybe one of those could pop on there. And then also I know just like the last thing is like people love Risk of Rain. I've never played it, Risk
Hmm.
of Rain 2 specifically. I've never played it, but I have our buddies Pat and Kevin have played a crap ton of it, and they love it. And it's probably a game that I need to check out because I know we were actually chatting about it in the Fresh Juice Discord. I think
With Burke.
Turtle,
Yeah, Turtle Mature and Burke. Shout out Burke.
yeah. So he had played Risk of Rain and really enjoyed it. I think it's like a third person, it's a third person roguelite. And so we were kind of looking at some other ones, trying to, he was looking for a new one to play. And I think I recommended Returnal for him, which has a lot of great reviews as well. But that's also a game that I think, you look at Dead Cells as like the Metroidvania roguelike. You look at Vampire Survivors, it's kind of like its own sort of thing, like a whatever you want to call it, a horde kind of game, whatever you want to call it. And then you have Binding of Isaac, which is I don't even
Bullet
know, like just
Helly kind
yeah,
of. Yeah.
Bullet Helly. And then you have like Risk of Rain 2 could potentially be on there. It's like a third person shooter rogue. Like you got like a mix of everything on there. And then even like, you're talking about like Slay the Spire, like deck builders, and there's just so many good roguelites. But I definitely think like Dead Cells, um, uh, it's probably the biggest, I would say, out of all of them. Hades too. You could maybe mention
True.
Hades on there. People
Yeah,
love
yeah.
Hades.
Hades is
Um,
another one, kind of brings in the elements of kind of like dungeon crawling,
mhm.
and then also like the the popular, I guess, like JRPG kind of, what do you call it, like relationship management, like outside of the game too, which was
Yeah.
kind of cool because like you're going out and doing it, and then like kind of building relationships back at home, and also upgrading your equipment and stuff. But a lot of great ones. I mean, it's hard to say. It's hard to pick four, but
It is.
you
It
know,
really is.
I mean, the amount of Slay the Spire I've seen played, Dead Cells, Binding of Isaac, Enter the Gungeon, Risk of Rain. I have heard of Risk of Rain, and I don't even know what that is, but I know that people love it. So
Mhm.
it's it's such a cool genre, and we have another entry into the mix
We do.
today. Will this one end up on the Mount Rushmore? We're going to talk about it, and we're going to decide. It is Balatro. We were calling Balatro before, but this is I guess you would call it a poker roguelike. I mean, that's just what it is. And you would think, well, how do you do that? Well, how do you do that, Matt? I'll let you take the floor here.
Yeah, so right out of the gate, I mean, we could just get into the gameplay here. So you start out, and forgive me because I don't know a lot of poker terminology. I haven't played like a blind. Like I know what a blind, like I've heard of blind, but like I don't know exactly what it is. And I know you're probably more experienced with that, but essentially, you start out with a deck. You have to build poker hands in order to score a certain amount of points. You have, each card kind of has a certain amount of chips that are associated with it. Like a 10 would have a 10 chips, a 9 would have 9 chips. And then there's also multipliers. So you can get joker cards that essentially can have different effects as you're playing, whether it's like, oh, all hearts get a +4 multiplier. So you're essentially playing you have a limited number of hands and a limited number of discards. You're playing those cards each hand. So you might play, let's say you play a straight, that's got a certain amount of chips, and then you times it by the multiplier, and then you're trying to beat whatever the blind is or whatever the chip count is, right, to move to the next level. So there are 3 levels basically per level. As you're going through your run, I think there's, what is there, 8 total antes. So like you're gonna up the ante. One, so inside joke there, but um, one kind of part of the game. I don't know if I'm explaining this well. It's like super easy to understand. The tutorial is fantastic,
Oh yeah.
but it's a really easy game to kind of pick up, at least for me. It was great. But yeah, you're essentially starting with a deck. You have to play a certain number of poker hands, your normal poker hands, right? Flush, straight, two pair, three of a kind, all that sort of stuff. And then you're playing those and using jokers, and you're using kind of these other random cards that you can get. Some of them are I forget what even they're called. There's like spectral cards.
Spectral
There's like
cards, tarot cards. You can
yeah,
get planets, which they upgrade your different hands that you can have. Yeah, but
yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, so you're essentially after each, let's say you have a small blind, you've got the big blind, and then you kind of have the boss level, right? So
Mhm.
you start out with the small blind. Let's say you need to get 300 chips in order to move on to the big blind level. You can choose to play the small blind, or you can skip it and move right to the big blind, and you get a reward. It'll tell you what reward it is. It might be a pack of cards, it might be whatever it is. So let's say you needed to get 300 chips. You played, I don't know, you played a straight. That straight was a level one straight because you haven't upgraded anything yet because it's just right at the beginning of the game. You haven't gotten any planet cards to upgrade your different poker hands. So let's say I don't know, you got 150 chips from that. You discarded a few cards, so now you only maybe have like two discards left, and you have two hands left to play. You play one more hand, and you break 300 chips. After you break 300 chips, the level kind of tallies up. You kind of get a certain amount of money. So when you get that certain amount of money in between the blinds, in between the levels, you have a little shop where that's where you can buy those Joker cards. That's where you can buy the planet cards, the tarot cards. And you can kind of start, you can even buy other actual playing poker cards and add them to your deck. So you can have more than four aces. It really is not like actual poker. The only thing that's like actual poker are the hands themselves that you're trying to make. So yeah, you essentially just kind of keep going through that. And if you fail any of those hands, let's say you run out of hands to play and you don't beat the blind, you don't beat that total chip number, you fail your run
Yeah.
and then you have to start over. So that's kind of how it works. It sounds probably a lot more confusing than it is, but or maybe I'm making it sound very confusing, but it is. I had so much fun playing this game. The gameplay was just great. What are you laughing?
No, no. I mean, I'm agreeing
Okay.
with you. This game is awesome. I mean, you know, but yeah, no, I do. I mean, before you give like your thoughts on how much you enjoyed it, but like I think you're nailing the basic gameplay there, right? It's each level has three enemies: the small blind, the big blind, and the boss. Right? The small blind smaller, less rewards. Big blind's bigger, more rewards, and then the boss usually has something that affects your deck or affects the way you play. And you beat that, and you have 8 of those sets, right? And you want to get to the end and beat it and upgrade stuff, and you can upgrade cards to do different multipliers or even gain you more money. And the jokers are really what's going to control your deck, right? It makes a regular playing card deck into like a trading card game deck. Like you're building a strategy based on your jokers, based on your tarot cards that you open, based on how you want to upgrade your different hands that you can have. Those planets, upgrade those. Like, and every hand has a certain amount of chips and a certain amount of multiplier, and then you can upgrade from there. So yeah, you nailed it on the explanation. But how did you like the gameplay? You said you had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, I loved it. Like honestly, the big thing for me, because I did look at a little bit of gameplay just on the Steam page before I played it, and I was like, I hope it has a great tutorial because I don't know if I understand poker. I don't know if I'm going to understand all these other elements that they're trying to put on it. We've played a lot of games that try to merge like genres, and like last week, it didn't work super well for us, at least with
Mm-hmm.
Hell's Gate. But this one, the tutorial is fantastic. I really love the idea of like you can start with different decks too, which is really cool. So like you start with like the red deck, and I think you get like one extra discard maybe
Yeah.
from that. Then there's the blue deck, you get an extra hand, and then there's other decks that kind of have different modifiers from the beginning when you start. There's also a really cool feature that I've never really seen before in a roguelite, where there's like a seed number that you can put in. They have seeded runs in this game, which is really cool. You know, if you think of Minecraft, right, you can like get a certain seed from someone online, and when you put that seed into your game, it creates that world exactly how that person's seed is. So if you want to, you know, someone might have a seed for like Hogwarts, and like you throw that in there, and then bam, you have Hogwarts. You can run around and play. So that's really cool. Like I'm assuming that I didn't test out a seeded run, but I'm assuming that means that, you know, like if I wanted to play the same run as you, maybe we wanted to see who got further, you know, we
Hmm.
could both start, and we would have the same types of enemies or same type of blinds and same type of chips. Also, the boss levels, I really like. There's always a modifier on the boss level. And it's something I had to start paying attention to because I got to a point where I got to the boss level and the modifier was I had one hand that I could play,
Yeah.
and I needed like 10,000 chips. And I was like, how am I going to be able to do this? And if I looked at it earlier, maybe while I was in the small blind step, I could have started maybe getting the right sort of Joker cards to really build up, and maybe getting, you know, the right sort of like tarot cards and planet cards to really try to build up my chances of beating that boss. So yeah, I really like that idea. You know, the shop is a really great call. I forget. Oh, I think it's actually Deep Rock Galactic Survivor has a shop in between levels as well, which I always, you know, obviously enjoy in roguelike games. You know, I don't think Hellskate had something like that, or at least it wasn't super rewarding. It was kind of like a vendor system. You had to like
Hmm.
go to them. It was a little different. But I really, yeah, just everything about this game. Like I found myself just going back and like wanting to kill time playing it. Just load it up. I left it like up overnight because I was like, oh, I don't want to lose my spot at this run. Like I'll just leave it, and then in the morning I'll like finish it. And yeah, I just loved everything about the game. Just, you know, we haven't talked about the art yet, but that's definitely a strong part of the game as well. But yeah, just overall, I mean, it kind of almost made me feel like I was getting better at poker, even though it has nothing really. I mean, it doesn't, you know, it's not poker. You can't, you know, treat it exactly like that. I know I'm kind of rambling here. There's just so many things I love about the game. There's like even particular parts, right, where like, let's say I had only, I don't know, one discard left. So you can discard up to 5 cards. And I had maybe 2 plays left, or 2 hands left. So let's say I had a four of a kind, or 2 pair, and I could just throw a fifth card in there, knowing that it was going to get discarded, right?
Yep.
Which is like, I don't even know if that's like a poker strategy. I don't know if that's something in poker that people consider when like they're. I guess not really, because
Yeah.
you're only playing what is going to get you points or whatever, you know, like it kind of had me thinking a lot differently as I kept playing it. And as you know, as the stakes get higher and higher and higher, you really have to start to like focus on, okay, like what are my jokers doing, like choosing a specific suit over another suit of the same card because it's going to give you more multipliers if you do that, like all these sort of things that like obviously I don't really think it matters too much in poker, you know, unless you're, you know, obviously going for like a straight flush or something like that. But I think, or just a flush in general. But I think, yeah, just everything about the gameplay. I recommend it. Like it's a $15 game. Like we're not getting to the rating yet, but like I just recommend the game to anyone who's interested in like a deck builder roguelite, and it's also not super complicated either, which like I find that like I know you're used to like the deck builder games. I don't play a ton of them.
Hmm.
So like this one I was like, all right, it's a deck of cards. Like I already know what that is, right? I'm not going to be like super surprised at that. So it was really easy to pick up and just play. But yeah, rambling a little bit there, but it's just I have a whole list of just things I love about the game that I was just going through. Just so many great things.
Well, I hate it. No, I'm kidding. No. I am going to echo a lot of what you said. This is such a brilliant game of, design wise. The fact that you can take 52 cards, right? Regular 52 card deck, and be like, how do I make this a roguelite with poker? You're like, well, nobody ever uses the jokers. How can we make the jokers? So you can have up to 5 jokers, right? And then each joker does something new, right? And at each time you play, unlock more jokers that you can buy in the shops as you go through. And then all of a sudden you start to see the things kind of come together because you read the joker and you're like, this one rewards flushes. There's probably other jokers that reward flushes. I'm going to focus on flushes, right? I'm going to build my deck. You can buy tarot cards that delete cards from your deck. So you can start deleting cards that aren't the suit that you want to do. You can delete low cards, etc., etc., etc. There are cards that say, you get multipliers based on whether it's an odd number or an even number. Just a bunch of stuff like that. So you can kind of build this really cool deck to kind of like go on these runs. And the seeded thing is so brilliant to me that you brought up. And the reason is, this is why I think that this has a real shot of being on that mountain, on that Mount Rushmore. And I know, and I said it in the Fresh Juice Discord, I was like, how hyperbolic am I going to be today? But I think that this has a shot. And the reason is, the difference between this and a lot of other roguelites is when you beat a run on a certain deck, you get your stats, you see what your highest number was, you see, how many cards you bought, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You get the seed. You get to keep that. Like, it saves it in there. You can screenshot it, whatever. It still saves it in the game. And then you can be like, put it out in the world. I beat the game on the red deck with this. Can you do it better than me? Can you do a better deck than me than I did? I think I did the best deck I could based on what was given to me. You guys do that. And that's just the implications of putting this out into the world and making people competitive about it. This high score mentality, very arcadey. And then you still get to have a blast playing these different decks that you can unlock. I mean, so for context, I got this on the Switch because I was just like, all right, well, if I like it, I'm going to want to play it on the couch or in bed or whatever. It was a smart thing. It was not a smart thing. I was up till 4 a.m. last night playing this game. I also couldn't sleep, but I beat it last night. I beat my first run on a deck, and it felt so good. And I was like, all right, I want to play the blue deck now. I beat the red deck. Let me do the blue deck. And then I started playing that for a little bit. And then I tried to go to sleep. But this game is so awesome. This is a real gem. I think that this is going to kind of go down in the annals of history in terms of gameplay for roguelites. Let's talk about the rest of it, though.
Yeah.
I think we both enjoyed the gameplay. The story. There's not much of a story. You get the little Joker person that talks to you. It's a little bit funny, right? Does the tutorial, which was great. Really informative. It's like, hey, this is what you're doing. This is how you're going to do it. You'll figure out the rest as you kind of go through each time you do a run. And like the beautiful thing is the first 2 antes, I think you can just be like someone who knows what poker is and kind of just play through it. And then you realize that like, oh, I'm going to have to like start thinking about what I buy and how I save my money if or if I want to skip blinds or anything like that. And that's awesome. Story is non-existent. It's a roguelite. There rarely is any real story here. Basically, though, it gives you vibes, and a vibe can be part of a story in a roguelite. It feels like you're in some kind of twisted reality. Like this is like the poker game you play at a casino in like a weird like alternate dimension, right?
Yeah.
That's the vibe they're going for. I don't think that they would disagree, right? Like it has that vibe that even goes with the aesthetics and the sounds as well. And that's the story. And I don't think it needs to be anything more than that because you're just jamming these cards and you're just playing the cool stuff that you can do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Not much of a story here, but it it feels like there's some sort of story, like I could see this being on like, I don't know, like interdimensional cable and like Rick and Morty of like someone being like, play the new poker, and it's just like something like completely random. But yeah, it's really great. I do want to talk. There's so much to talk about with the art as well
Mm.
that I just think that there's so many strong points with the art. It's kind of this like pixelated poker, and you almost get like these old school like TV lines as you're
Mm-hmm.
playing. I'll just hit my mic there, but so it kind of, yeah, it feels like nostalgic in a way, but obviously it's new. And then you also get this really great animations as well of like burning cards. When you beat a blind, you kind of get the blind chip sort of like disintegrates. You have really great animations with like opening packs in the store, really like that, where like they kind of burst open and then like if it's a celestial pack, it's got like this animated background and like the cards kind of fly up from the bottom. I just think overall, like the art style was fantastic. You even get like you can add different kind of modifiers to specific cards, like you were mentioning, like with the tarot cards, and the actual design on the card itself will change. So like you might get a wild card modifier that like it could be any suit, so the suit on the card is kind of xed out, or scratched out. You can also get, a card. You can kind of buff a card, and like an ace, which normally gives you 11 chips. You might get a boost in chips for that modifier. So it would be 11 plus like 30 chips, and there will be kind of like little blue arrows on the cards to indicate that. So you start to really kind of understand, I found myself not really having to like hover over certain things because I'm like, oh, I already know what that symbol means. They did a good job of kind of like training you on like what those sort of things are, and also having them stand out. I didn't really find that any of the cards that ended up getting modifiers looked too similar to each other, which was also great, and something that you definitely want to be able to distinguish between different cards, especially just so you don't play the wrong card and then all of a sudden your run is over. So yeah, I just think everything from like the art side of it, it's kind of got like the shop kind of has this like old school feel of like, it's like I forget what it says. It's like up in the top left. It's kind of got like this old school little sign that's like, I don't know, boost your run or whatever, or like
Yeah.
whatever it is. Yeah, I just think like overall, the art was super strong. But what did you think?
Yeah, it was super nostalgic. So my grandmother, on not the side that we share, we're cousins for anybody listening, but they had like one of those old vans where it had a little TV in it, and they had like a Super Nintendo, and there was like a casino game. I think it was Vegas Stakes for the Super Nintendo on that, and this was just giving me like flashbacks to Vegas Stakes because it was my grandparents. They didn't have like Super Mario or anything like that. They had like Vegas Stakes on
Yeah.
Super Nintendo. It wasn't like they were, having like a lot of bangers, but like it was kind of cool to kind of get that vibe. I love the animations, the way, it interacts with, you clicking on it and kind of doing all the different things, the discards. It felt very fluid. It felt, easy to distinguish, like you said, the different kinds of cards, the different kind of updates you can do to the cards, plus the updates you can do to the jokers, and then all the planets look different, which was kind of cool for upgrading your hands, etc., etc. And then the scorekeeper. So it's like it was like blue for chips and red for multipliers. And then if you're having a big hand, like that's like scoring a lot of points, it slowly starts to catch on fire. And
Yeah.
even more so, I've watched videos of people like scoring like millions of points on one hand, and
Wow.
it's like losing its mind. It's really really cool. And it's like this is going to break the game. You don't know, and it was really awesome. And I think all of it was really well thought out. The way even the main character Joker, I guess you probably Balatro would probably be his name, kind of talks to you, and like the little text comes up, and we'll get right into the sound. Sounds a little bit like Animal Crossing speak, a little
Yeah.
bit, and then even when the fire's going, it's sounds the music gets drowned out by this fire, and it sounds really cool. And like all the different the flicks of the card as you discard them and draw them, and the little clicks, it's just all very
Yep.
satisfying. And then the music is very like, feels like you're in like a arcadey casino, but like weird. Like this is why I was talking about the vibe. It feels a little like interdimensional in a way. Very, very cool. The vibe was just awesome. The music was sick. I was listening to it today. I was just like, let me just listen to it again, like where I'm not paying attention to the game. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. And it had this like weird, like little synth, like melodies playing in the background.
Yeah.
Home run on the visuals and the sound, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I totally agree. They sell the soundtrack like on Steam as well as like a separate purchase, which usually is an indication. It's like obviously good music and also unique and original music as well. So yeah, I really enjoyed. It's like a chill kind of electronic music that's playing in the background. I also really enjoyed after each kind of round. When it's tallying up the score, it's like, or even when it's counting up your score for your hand, it's kind of like pop, 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 like it's like popping up. And then yeah, the burning was really interesting. Kind of like setting it on fire because it really gets you to be like, oh my god, like go, go, go. Like I just go, go. Like because you don't like you have some sort of idea that like okay, this is going to be a big hand, but you don't know exactly where it's going to land. In terms of like the total number of chips. So like seeing that sort of stuff is just awesome. And it just really gets you invested into the game. And even like opening packs, like the sound you get when you open the packs was exactly what you kind of expect. That nostalgic, like, I'm just thinking like opening up like a pack of Pokemon cards, there's a kind of crinkle a little bit. Yeah, just everything about the sound was fantastic. And even like the sound you get when you fail your run is just like, oh, like you're just like, God damn it. Like as soon as you fail the run, like the screen kind of goes red a little bit and just kind of, just like pops up and you're like, oh, like, all right, like, yeah, I don't want to hear that sound, but it's yeah, everything about the sound and the art was just killer. And I know performance for me, like it just ran perfectly. I had no issues. I know you played on the Switch, so were there any noticeable issues on the Switch?
No, nothing on my end. There was one thing where, because I was using the touchscreen mostly, because let's be honest, once this goes on mobile, which I have to imagine is going to be, it's gonna make so much money. This
Yeah.
game is built for mobile. I was using the touchscreen mostly just because it felt a little bit more intuitive. I think like regular mouse would probably be the best, but like touchscreen was awesome. But there was times when the rumble would just keep going because I accidentally knocked off my Joy-Con. But I think that was just like because I was going back and forth. I actually hit like a button and then would go back to thing. But as soon as I
Gotcha.
like reset the Joy-Con, it was totally fine. But I don't think that was the game's fault. It was probably more hardware stuff. But yeah,
Yeah.
performed totally fine.
Cool. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I played on Steam and yeah, it was great. I even played a little bit on like the Steam Link app, just like streaming it to my phone and using like the touch screen, and that got me thinking like, man, I just want this as like an actual mobile app. Because it's just gonna, yeah, like you said, they could sell different decks with different skins, like little microtransactions, or just like different themes. They could have like a black background, whatever. They could really switch it up with the cosmetics
Well, I mean, like Slay
on
the
mobile.
Spire is on mobile, and they just charge like what $5 or $6, and like it does so well on mobile. And same with Dead Cells,
Oh
which you're
yeah,
talking about before. You know what? Like, I mean, there's obviously DLC and stuff like that. You can just sell this on mobile and it would make a lot of money, and then like DLC and whatever. I think
yeah.
the sky's the limit with this game.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it got me thinking like it would be really cool. I don't know if they'll ever do this because it always involves like server and server costs, but like some sort of multiplayer mode where like imagine like you're at like a poker table with some people and you're all fighting the same thing. It's like a
Oh,
100,000 chips or something like something insane that you all need to try to beat or and or maybe it's like a million chips and you just keep knocking it down, down and down until and you have to beat it in like a certain number of hands or something like that. There's just so many cool ideas that you could have with poker because obviously when typically, when you play poker, it's like a social kind of thing. You're not really playing like by yourself unless you're playing like one of the machines at the casino. But I just think that could be kind of the next step for this game if they were ever going to like look into multiplayer. But it
Mhm.
really doesn't need it though.
Yeah.
It doesn't need it at all. But I just think it could be a cool idea.
No, absolutely. So, hey, listen, let's get to our our rating here. I think if anybody knows us and has listened for the past 20 minutes, they know probably where we're gonna land. But the ratings for anybody who doesn't know are, this is from best to worst. The best games are Certified Fresh Juice. After that, A Steal, followed by Get on Sale, then Manager Special, and then finally something that nobody wants, Spoiled Milk. Now, Maddie Juice, what do you give Balatro or
So
Balatro?
I'm giving this a very low spoiled milk. No, I'm giving this a certified fresh juice. I wrote it down like 30 minutes into playing the game. I was like, this is certified. So that I think I've explained myself enough with the game, but that's what I'm giving it.
I gotta say, I wasn't like worried. Like I know you like good games, but I know that you had not really played a lot of like deck builder roguelites. You weren't like a Slay the Spire guy or anything
Yeah.
like that. So I was like, well, is this gonna be something that kind of clicks with Maddie? And it did. I was worrying for nothing. This game is a certified fresh juice. The replayability here is insane. You're getting so much for your money. It's like super well thought out, from the gameplay to the aesthetics to the music and sound to everything going on with it. And I'm excited for where it goes in the future because the kind of beautiful thing is like this is like a made up game. Like most games are made up, but like this the parameters of this game, like the Joker system is theirs and they can manipulate it however they want with the tarot cards. Spectral. I mean, they call the slots where you have like planets, spectral cards, tarot cards, consumables. You can create new consumables, right, for this game if you
Yeah.
really wanted to. And just like, oh, it interacts with the game this way and allows you to kind of like, oh wow, this just changes the way I'm going to do this run. Let me go back to one of my seeded runs that I beat with the red deck. Initially, I want to play it with these new cards added. So
Yeah.
the potential is already sky's the limit. I think the game's awesome. Certified fresh juice. Woo.
Woo, that's double certified fresh juice. That's the second time in history, and the last one was last month with the Norp Apolog. So
Yeah.
2024 is coming out strong
Oh,
with these
man.
games.
Man,
And
we're every 11 episodes, right? We're 1 in 11 for a double certified fresh juice at this point. But
yeah,
this game is a banger, and I'm gonna be honest with you, Maddie. This is where the hyperbole comes in. This is my game of the year if the year ended tomorrow, right?
yeah,
This is
I agree.
up there. So
Yeah.
um,
I also something just want to point out that doesn't happen too often. Looking on Steam right now, it's got over 8,000 reviews and they are overwhelmingly positive.
mhm.
So that is like that is the highest rating I think you can get on Steam. And it doesn't happen too often. Usually you see very positive, pretty often, but overwhelmingly positive. So we're not the only ones that are seeing that this is a gem here. So I
Yep.
definitely recommend, it's 15 bucks on Steam. Go check it out, watch a stream of it. Hell, join our Discord, ask us about it,
Yeah.
we'll tell you all about it. We'll show it to you. And I think this is also a really interesting game because we've talked about, taking like when we're particularly playing like chess, those kind of chess spin-off games of like taking a classic kind of game and like building on top of it. And I think this is the best representation of that I've seen yet. Of like just taking poker and building on top of it. Like, what is next? Like, are we gonna have like checkers? Are we gonna have like Scrabble, like roguelite, or something like that? Like, I don't even know, but I'm excited to see, obviously what else Balatro can do, and maybe that developer, but also just other developers, what they can do. It seems to be kind of maybe like a trend that's starting to happen, perhaps, of kind of taking these old school games and making them roguelites and building on top of them.
And if you do it right and you strike gold like this, I mean, I looked on Twitter earlier. I mean, I'm sure it's more now, but they had already sold 250,000 copies of this game on Steam.
Oh, that's crazy.
That's huge. So,
Yeah.
check it out. I mean, I enjoyed it on the Switch. I mean, I think on the go is pretty great with this. I mean, because it's you can just put it down too for a second if you don't need to like really do it, like, or you need to go take care of something. So, great
Yeah.
game, great game. Now we do have some listener questions. First, we should talk about the best game we played in February that we reviewed. I think it goes without saying it's Hellskate. No, it's Balatro, undeniably in February.
Yes. No, absolutely. Yeah, we had Norp Apolog as our best January game, Balatro as our best February game. So we'll see what March brings, but
Yeah,
starting out strong.
yeah. We did some demos in February, so like, shout out to like Board Blasters and games like that we really enjoyed. But
Yeah.
Balatro was incredible and is incredible, and I'm going to be playing more of it. So
Yeah, same here. Thinking of booting it up right now just while we're talking, It's one of those easy games you can play.
we do have a question from K Moore, who asks, a game is being developed during and about your whole life, but only comes out once you die. What genre do you think your life would be? It's a great question.
Oh, bullet hell. No, just kidding. That is a really interesting question. So I can kind of look at this in like two different ways of like what genre would I want it to be in. If it was about me, it would probably be like an open world survival game, just because I like those kind of games. But I don't live like I'm not like that's not who I am. I'm not like going out trying to build a campfire in my backyard and like catch a fish. Like to eat it. So if it was like accurate, lore accurate, it would probably just be a um, I don't know, like a narrative game. Like I'm thinking like the Stanley Parable. For anyone who's played that, if like it's like a interesting. It's almost got like Portal vibes in a way of like kind of like the tone, but it's about a guy who works a desk job and then he just notices like something's wrong and he kind of goes off of the path that they want him to go on and he's it's just like an interesting game where like the narrator's yelling at you and he's kind of doing things that he's not supposed to do. So maybe like something in that realm. I don't even know what you would call that. Just like a adventure game, maybe. But yeah, I guess it would be that. But what about you, Tommy?
Yeah, I mean, the easy answer here would be like, it's a life sim. That's it.
Yeah.
But that's not really that interesting. I was thinking about this one at dinner, and I think that my answer is probably a puzzle game because I always feel like I'm having to figure shit out. Like oh, what do I gotta do? Like it feels like every day there's like a challenge presented to me that I have to like figure out how to do this the best way. And I enjoy solving puzzles, so like I think that it would be like some kind of life sim puzzle game or something like that.
Yeah.
Adventure puzzle game, we'll call it.
There you go.
My
Yeah.
life's an adventure. But that's a great question, K Moore. We do have another question from Capolo, who did recommend Balatro to us. Thank you, Cap. As we said at the top of the show. Outside of trying out games for the show, what are the key factors that make you purchase a game? Indie, AAA, doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, great question here. Yeah, just kind of thinking, like, I know Cap, you mentioned outside of the show, because obviously that is a factor, right? We're always like, oh, we need to play a game for the next week. Let's see what we can find. But for me, like a key factor is definitely, kind of obviously like what my friends think of the game. Like, I know I've kind of me and my buddy Pat have helped influence people to get Helldivers because we're like, oh, it's great, and like those people are like, oh, a friend is recommending it, I'll give it another look, or whatever it is. So that's definitely a big thing for me. But really, I think at the end of the day, it really comes down to just like I watch a lot of streams and gameplays of a game before I purchase it. And I listen to like, I find streamers that I can relate to, that play similar games to me that like one of them off the top of my head, I watch pretty often is Gathalion. He's a really chill streamer. He's been playing a lot of Helldivers, but he's kind of blew up with Destiny years ago. A really fantastic streamer, chill guy, and I listen to him. I'm not necessarily going to be buying it just because he says to buy it, but if he is like, "Oh, this is great. These are the problems I'm seeing with the game. These are kind of the things I like about the game. Look, I'll take that and I'll weigh that pretty heavily as one of the factors because these are people, these streamers are playing these games 8, 10 hours a day. So they're going to probably know whether a game is good or not, at least if they have their head on straight. So I would say like a big key factor for me is, yeah, like I'm not looking at reviews really. I'm looking at streams and I'm seeing what are people talking about live about this game. And then I just kind of make a judgment call based on the price of the game and based on what I thought of the gameplay, and then I just go ahead and pick it up. Whether it's AAA, indie, it doesn't really matter. Like if it looks cool, I'm gonna pick it up. Like I didn't even know Helldivers was not an indie game because it's published by Sony. Like when I was first looking at it, I'm like, oh, this like is this an indie? Like I didn't even know. I had to look it up after I like had played like 10 hours of the game already, and I realized it was published by Sony. So yeah, that was probably the biggest factor for me is it's kind of something new that like I never did as a kid, right? Because it wasn't really a thing, and I would say streams are probably the biggest thing for me.
Yeah. For me, I kind of look at well how it looks, right? I like
Yeah.
aesthetics. There's certain things that like I don't vibe with. So like for example, I didn't buy Slay the Spire for a long time. Everybody's like, "You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it." I'm like, I don't really like that art style, and I still don't like that art style. But then it just so happened to be on Apple Arcade, which I pay for. And I was like, all right, well, it's free now, so I'll like try it. And then I was like, okay, the game's really good. But mostly I look at like the art style first, and then I kind of look at the genre after that, kind of in conjunction. Like, is it a genre that I typically enjoy? Maybe, we get a little bit of combination thing there. I'll get it. And then finally, if like Helldivers is not something I normally would have even tried to play, but you were talking about it, you explained it. I heard about the Starship Troopers kind of references. I love that movie. And then just my TikTok feed was just feeding me like the memes of it and like some of the gameplay. And I was like, God, this looks awesome. I guess I'm just gonna play it. So I think that usually in that order, like it's like aesthetics, genre, and then if the gameplay looks like exactly what I want, I'll try it. And usually that's a good gauge for me to kind of figure out if something's good. We miss on some stuff like Wizard with a Gun. Like I probably would have tried that even if we weren't reviewing it, and
Yep.
it would have been a flop. So
Yeah.
great question, Cap. And then finally a question from rcarp11 who asked, "What is the easiest and hardest thing about doing a podcast?"
Yeah, for me, easiest thing is talking about video games on this one. That is like I do that anyway. So that's probably the easiest thing for sure. And obviously playing the games, making sure you have a little time carved out to play those games. But honestly, I think like the hardest thing about doing a podcast is just being consistent with it. We've both been part of a few different podcasts that are no longer really a thing. Like Mistakes Were Made was a podcast that I did that was a gaming related one. Easy to talk about games, but really didn't get too far with it because just consistency and schedules with like co-hosts and things like that. I know my buddy Bags, our buddy Bags, he was the co-host on Mistakes Were Made, and sometimes it's just hard to get those schedules together. And that's really like the toughest thing. And I think honestly think like Discord is like a savior in this because we live like an hour or so from each other, so it would be hard to get together every week to do this. So I think yeah, just like the hardest thing, and we've been doing a great job with it. We're in a rhythm with the show,
Mm-hmm.
so I think like once you kind of get in a rhythm, it's becomes easier, but it's still just something like I have a calendar with Maria, and like on Mondays, I'm blocking out that time for the podcast because if I don't, like chances are I forget about it, or like Like there have been times where I'm like, oh my god, I have to play the game for the podcast. Like it's Saturday and we're recording on Monday. I'm carving out like a good 3-4 hours on Saturday to just play this game. So like stuff like that, like kind of that consistency part is for me probably the hardest. But it's just at the end of the day, it's just fun and easy to talk about games. So happy about that.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree. I think, the hardest thing is always the exterior stuff, right? Making sure you have the time, making sure, you come up with the topics. Like, for Fresh and Buds, it's getting guests. Like, that is a pain in the ass. I hate doing it. And it's like so hard to get guests sometimes. And, I have like my designated hitters, right? Like, if I can't get
Yeah.
somebody new, I was just like, hey, you want to hop on the pod? They're always like, yeah, 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 that's awesome, which is great. I'm very, very grateful. Initially, I didn't have that, and that was very, very tough. So, kind of like that kind of stuff, and then making sure it's edited and like put up on time, and like just like I'm not a trained editor, or like I don't know audio that well. I've relied on a bud from Fresh and Buds to help me kind of learn a little bit, but like sometimes I used to just upload stuff that sounded like shit, right? And you're just like, oh, whatever. And
Yeah.
but the exterior stuff is the hardest. The easiest is like once that record starts, it's the best. It's
Yeah.
like we're off to the races. You know, I never dread this podcast. I've never dread doing this podcast. There have been days when I was like, with Fresh and Buds, I was like, I don't know if I can muster up the energy to talk to somebody I've never talked to before for an hour. Then I put on record, and then all that erases out of my head, and we're in it, and I'm having fun. So, great question, RCarp11. You're the best. Keep on keeping on, and that is the end of the show, Matt. That means that we have the Rec Room, where we recommend something that perhaps is not an indie game. What do you have to recommend this week?
Yeah, so this actually is an indie game, I believe, technically, right? I didn't actually look into it because it's the Rec Room, but it's a game, and it is called Deep Rock Galactic Survivor. We talked about it a bit on the show last week, I believe. And essentially, it is a Vampire Survivors like in the Deep Rock Galactic world. It is, I think it's like $9 on Steam. I bought it for, and I've been having a blast with this game. It is a really interesting take on a Vampire Survivors like, where first off, the levels are not endless. There is a set kind of border on each level. You are also mining and digging, so it kind of gave me a little bit of the Board Blasters vibe in a way. Board Blasters, it's a lot quicker. This one you're kind of you're a dwarf mining, so it's a little bit slower. But it is a really fantastic take on the mechanics of a Vampire Survivor like, and then building on that with new mechanics. Like for example, there are different levels, right? So you're kind of there's a bar at the top of the each level, and it kind of tells you your progress through that level. There'll be certain icons that say, oh, there's a drop pod coming in and you can get some supplies from that, or there's like a swarm coming in, so you'll know kind of when that stuff's happening. And then there'll be kind of a boss for each level, and after you defeat the boss, you'll have 30 seconds to run to the ship that's in the middle, and then you dig deeper to the next level. So you're going
Yeah.
down, like I think you go down 5 levels, and I have not beaten the boss yet. I've gotten close, but there's like at least the first kind of level that I was in. There's a boss that's like in a big egg, and you have to basically go around and fight kind of the mini bosses, and then you're trying to beat like the big boss in the egg. Yeah, it's just really fantastic. There's different classes you can play too. I've only played like the scout, which is the starter class, different like levels that you can go into, and it's still early access, I believe. So they're still working on it. But it really has been like a refreshing take on a Vampire Survivors like, and I didn't know I was gonna like it that much. But it really has become it might even be like my favorite Vampire Survivors like that I played, maybe until we played some Board Blasters on the show. It's just really fantastic, and it's also in 3D as well, which is different, obviously art style wise from what we've seen. So yeah, I can't recommend it enough. Deep Rock Galactic Survivor. If you're a fan of Vampire Survivors, or even if you're just a fan of Deep Rock Galactic, it's probably worth picking up. I know our buddy Pat loves Deep Rock, and he picked up Survivor. He also likes Vampire Survivors, but He's been loving Deep Rock Galactic Survivor, and he was the one that recommended it to me. So, yeah, shout out to Pat. But it's a great game, and I think you would love it too, Tom.
Yeah, I've been watching some streams of it. I was like, I almost pulled the trigger on it, but I was like, all right, let me play a little more Balatro, and I was gonna play more Balatro anyway. So that's next on my docket. It does look good. Did give me some reminded me of some Board Blaster stuff going on there as well, which I am excited to play. My Rec Room this week is actually a new song, which I guess is going to lead to a new album from Kings of Leon, one of my favorite bands. Love them for a very long time now. They just put out a new single called Mustang. Their new album's going to be called Can We Please Have Fun? And that's exactly what this song is. It's very fun. It reminds me of like really early stuff, like the first two albums before, like the huge success of like Use Somebody, and then like Because of the Times and stuff like that. And it's just
Sex on Fire.
Yeah, Sex on Fire. It just like it has this like fun, weird, like retro vibe to it, and I really like it. It's just a fun song I've been blasting while driving around town, So check it out. But
when's that album supposed to be coming? Do you know? Or did you say?
May. I think it's May. Okay. I'm not entirely sure. I'm almost positive it's May. So yeah, they dropped the first single this week or last week, and yeah, it'll be coming.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely give it a listen.
Those young boys.
Yeah. Them young boys, them Leon boys.
Those young Leon boys. Now that's gonna do it for the show. You can find me on Twitter at FreshBudsPod. Check out the Fresh Juice Discord. I have another podcast called Fresh and Buds, talk about a indie trading card game called Flesh and Blood, and you can find us on all of our other socials at Fresh Juice Pod. Please check out the Discord. We might have to make a Balatro channel just like post runs, right?
Oh yeah,
because I definitely need to post, because I posted in the Buzz Discord, so like Buzz Discord's a lot of card gamers. So I was like, by the way, I'm reviewing this game on Fresh Juice this week. I think a lot of you are going to like it. And a lot of them do. They're all like, this game's awesome. So,
hell yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, we'll have to post some runs. But where can people find you, Matty?
Yeah, if you want to find me outside the show, at Matty Gorm on all the socials and everything. I've been playing some Helldivers, streaming a little bit of it as well. So if you want to catch me over on Twitch, feel free to do so. But really, I am probably the most active on Discord. I always have it up on another screen while I'm working and stuff. So if you guys are messaging in Fresh Juice, I'm probably going to respond pretty soon, and we can have a good chat. But yes, I did just make a Balatro channel while you mentioned it, because I think that's a great idea. So we'll throw some runs in there, throw some seed numbers, so you can get the best runs for those seeds. Maybe we'll have to have a little tournament or something like that.
I'm taking a look right now. I'm gonna post my Balatro, John, right now, live on air. I'm posting it, so go check out.
Let's go.
Boom, 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 boom.
I need to complete a run first before I can do that. I was so close to completing one. I was like on like ante, like 7 out of 8 or something. You have to get through all 8, right?
You gotta get through all 8. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was my second time getting to the boss, the final boss, and this time it was both on similar builds. But we'll talk about it after the air. Cool. But yeah, everybody, thanks for listening, and stay fresh. Juice